Professor Marcel Rominger, and this is Module 10, and in this video we are going to be talking about cadences. So if you've made it this far, congratulations. That means that you have a good working knowledge of some of the previous topics or modules that we've had previous to this. So that includes triads, chords, functional harmonies, scales, keys. If not, make sure to go back, review some of those previous topics so that this way you're a little bit more fluent in them, and this is going to give you a good foundation to proceed with this topic. All right. If you feel like you're ready, let's go ahead and talk about cadences.
Okay, so before we talk about cadences, let's take a step back and do a little bit of review about functional harmony. So we start with the tonic, we move to some series of chords, which can involve the 2 chord, the 4 chord, the 6 chord, which then of course moves to the dominant, and then the dominant then resolves to the tonic, and that's the end of this phrase or chord progression or even a section of music. So when we talk about cadences, we're going to be focusing mostly on the last 2 parts of this chord progression or this phrase, which is the dominant and the tonic. So when we have this type of movement between a dominant and a tonic, this type of resolution is known as an authentic cadence. Now there are different types of authentic cadence. I mean, there's inauthentic, there's perfect authentic, imperfect, all these sort of different variations, but mostly it revolves around the idea that the dominant is moving to the tonic and creates this very strong sense of finality. Right? We sense that through harmony that we are finished with this part and a new part would begin after that. Now, this authentic cadence became pretty common in a large group of works. We came to hear that it was expected that the dominant would just resolve to the tonic. So if the dominant were to move to a different chord, it would kind of deceive us. It would deceive our expectations. So in this case, the dominant is now moving to the 6th chord, also known as the submediant. So because this is deceiving our ears, we call this type of cadence a deceptive cadence. Now, what would happen if the dominant didn't move anywhere? What if we stayed on the dominant or moved to a different dominant chord, which did not resolve? Well, because it didn't move to the tonic, it's kind of only done halfway. We didn't complete the cadence, so this is why we call this a half cadence. Now, within the next cadence, as you can see, I didn't change the tonic. The tonic stays the same, but I changed the chord that came before the tonic. I actually changed it to the subdominant, the 4 chord. So the subdominant is now resolving to the tonic. This is a special type of cadence that was used in church hymns a lot. This became known as a Plagal cadence, sometimes even called an Amen cadence. Okay, so now let's actually see what these cadences look like on the score and actually what they sound like. So I chose the key of C since that is a pretty good key to introduce these topics in. So in the key of C, I have a 5 chord resolving to 1, and it sounds like this. So here you can hear the 5 resolving to the 1 chord, the G triad moving to the C triad. Next we have a deceptive cadence. So here we have a 5 moving to the 6. You can hear this doesn't have the same kind of resolution that an authentic cadence has. Let's listen to it again. For our half cadence, you can see that it looks like 2 different triads, but it's actually the same harmony. It's actually a G triad written higher. Let's listen to this. So in the half cadence, we stay on the dominant. There is no resolution to the tonic. For the Plagal cadence, here is the 4-chord built on the 4th scale degree, the F triad, resolving to the tonic. So here's a chord progression that I borrowed from Martin Luther. It's a little bit like a famous hymn of his called "The Mighty Fortress is Our God." Slightly altered. I really like this chord progression because it uses a lot of different harmonies in it. Let's listen to it. Now, of course, you get the sense that this progression or this phrase is finished when we get to the end, because at the very end we have this authentic cadence. Let's listen to it one more time. Now, what happens if we change that cadence? What if we change the last 2 chords to a deceptive cadence? This is what it would sound like. So as you can see, it sounds unresolved now. Let's listen to it one more time. What if we end the chord progression with a half cadence? It would sound like this. Let's listen to it again. Like the deceptive cadence, it doesn't sound resolved like an authentic cadence. For the Plagal cadence, I decided to add a Plagal cadence after the chord progression, much like what would happen in a church hymn. Let's listen to it. So as you can see, the Plagal cadence, even though it is not as strong as an authentic cadence, it's added afterwards, but it does strengthen the movement to the tonic. It does bring out the tonic much better. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but there actually is a small Plagal cadence happening within the second measure. But just like the Plagal cadence at the very, very end, it's not as strong. Does not have the same kind of weight or harmonic weight that it does at the very end. Amen. See, the church choir definitely agrees. Now, because we have this Plagal cadence at the very end, we can shorten the chord progression if we really wanted to and just stick with the first 2 measures. So it would sound like this. Let's go ahead and pop this up a little bit. So Plagal cadences, in addition to appearing or being famous for being in old church hymns, Plagal cadences actually appear a lot in popular music. So we went from the church choir to the rock choir. Okay, so why do we want to talk about cadences? Why is this important? Well, we already said that in the authentic cadence, this creates a sense of finality, a sense of resolution to this chord progression that we have here. So it signals the end of a phrase, the end of a section. When we change to a deceptive cadence, we don't get that same kind of resolution. It creates added harmonic tension. that it goes unresolved, or it's not resolved immediately. So something else has to happen after this. One solution would be to repeat the entire progression or the entire phrase, and then the second time finishing with an authentic cadence. So this is a well-used technique by composers to create harmonic tension, to prolong this type of tension and then resolving it later on. The same thing can happen when we have a half cadence. This phrase goes unresolved. It is not, we don't get that sense of finality. Again, we can repeat the entire phrase. One solution is to repeat the entire phrase, and then the second time, of course, finishing with the authentic cadence. So therefore, rather than just repeating the progression twice, by putting one of the deceptive or the half cadences there, it creates the harmonic tension and gives us a reason to either repeat the phrase or to create other type of music that would resolve that tension. Okay, so let's talk about how to figure out what kind of cadence we have here through analysis. And this is just going to help you with harmonic analysis in general. So first things first, we have to take a look at the key signature. Now, in the key signature, I see 4 flats. So 4 flats tells me that this could be either in A flat major or it could be in F minor. So we have to do a little bit more digging in order to figure out which one this is. So let's take a look at the bottom notes of these chords. All right, now the only way I'm able to do that is because I know that these chords are in root position. Both of them are stacked into thirds. There's no inversion, so it's completely safe to take a look at those bottom notes. All right, so we have in the first chord that the chord is built upon an E flat, and in the second chord, the chord is built on an A flat. So E flat in the key of A flat major happens to be a 5, the 5th scale degree, and A flat is the 1st scale degree. So in the key of F minor, the second chord would be the 3rd scale degree. So that, you know, we haven't talked about any cadences that resolve to 3, so that really wouldn't make too much sense. So it's safe to say that we're definitely in the key of A flat major, where we have a 5/7 that resolves to a 1 chord, a dominant going to the tonic. All right, so in the key of A flat, we have an authentic cadence with a 5/7 resolving to 1. So if you follow this procedure, you should be right on your way to figuring out your cadences. Okay, so let's take a look at this cadence right over here. I want you to see if you can figure out what kind of cadence this is. So before we actually do any kind of analysis, let's go ahead and listen to it. Now, just by listening to this cadence, you might have a little bit of an idea of what could be happening here. Maybe you're unsure, but regardless, we are definitely going to break it down and try to figure out what's happening here. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to try to figure this out on your own. Now, I really want to make sure that you take your time, make sure you have some staff paper with you, make sure you go through all the steps, and only when you're really ready, unpause the video so that we can discuss the answer. Ready? Go. Did you figure out the answer? Okay, so if you came up with an authentic cadence in G minor, then you are correct. Then you are success. All right. But if not, we're going to go through the steps. We're going to break it down so that we can figure out what went wrong or what needs kind of improvement or more work. Okay. So the first step we talked about, remember in the hints, we talked about taking a look at that key signature. So we have 2 flats. So remember that this gives us a choice between B flat major and G minor. Okay, so it could be either one of those. The next step was to take a look at the chords or the harmonies in the left hand. So if we take a look at the bottom notes, I said to take a look at the bottom notes, but be very, very careful because that first chord is not the root in the bottom note. Okay, that chord is inverted. All right, so hopefully you caught that, and that the bottom note, it's not an F sharp chord. It's actually inverted, so we have to find the root of that chord. Okay, now, if this is something that you need practice or you're not very familiar with, make sure to go review the Module 8 videos that I have regarding the 7th chords and 7th chord inversions. So make sure you go back, get familiar with that topic, practice that, and then come back and proceed with this study of this cadence. Okay? So let's take a look at the second chord then. All right, we'll take a break from the first chord. We'll go to the second chord. The second chord is, in fact, in root position. So we can take a look at that bottom note, which is G. Okay. Now, the G is the 6th scale degree in the key of B flat. It is also the 1st scale degree in G minor. So this might not help too much because we could have a deceptive cadence, which goes from 5 to 6, or we could have an authentic cadence, which goes from 5 to 1. So we're not really quite sure yet what could happen. So again, we got to go back to the first chord, and we're going to have to sort of figure this harmony out a little bit better in order to figure out what kind of cadence we have. So hopefully by now you've put the chord into root position, or you've at least figured out what the root may be. If it helps, I wrote the root position chord underneath, and you can see that the bottom note is in fact D. So it's based on a D, which is the 5th scale degree of G or the 3rd scale degree of B flat. And since we don't have a lot of 3s in cadences, it seems that this could in fact be a 5-7 chord, or since it's inverted, it would be a 5-6-5, which resolves to the 1 in G minor. So if that's what you got, G minor, an authentic cadence, 5 going to 1, or 5-6-5 going to 1, then you got the correct answer. Then you achieved it. If something went wrong, hopefully by breaking it down into these steps, you were able to see where you went wrong and what you need to watch out for when analyzing or identifying cadences. All right, so just keep practicing and good luck.